Hello, this is Topaz with Voice to the Void, here on October 10th, Wednesday. I apologize for the break in between daily episodes. I will attempt to keep as many days in a row as I possibly can. Long weekend, lots of things like that going on. I'm basically recording on the night of Tuesday at the moment. Going into Wednesday, should have this up nice and early, as long as YouTube cooperates. So, without further ado, a bunch of things happened in that time. Valve is now inviting fans of the local area to test hardware prototypes. It's a very interesting proposition for what they might be moving into. They're basically going to be attempting to counter the Windows 8 changes and availability, so it'll be a very interesting change to possibly the entire industry if they keep that. Azeroth was rebuilt in Minecraft. It's a very interesting thing of how the fan bases for both of these games are so intensely dedicated. It would be amazing how much profitability you could still get off of these, but instead, for the most part, well, of course, Blizzard is getting a lot of profitability, but Mojang seems to be going more for goodwill, which will probably help in the sales of future games. Backbone Entertainment seems to be facing closure, according to Develop. It's been hard times in a lot of those, seeing another company on the ropes. Always a problem. They've been having a bunch of layoffs. Microsoft has developed a accurate wrist-mounted motion controller, says The Escapist. Be very interesting to see, because they said it could even detect actual writing. Anything that precise might start rendering touch a little bit moot if you can have something as simple as that. Or maybe it'll just be like the mouse versus the touchpad on a laptop, where a lot of people will end up carrying around one of these to have better touch control and writing. Microsoft also is prohibiting gamers from cashing in on YouTube with any games published by Microsoft. This includes Halo 4 and a lot of the other games that they've been developing. This is a very interesting tactic, because it's been happening a lot on YouTube, and as a person currently broadcasting on YouTube, it seems strange. Individuals who are broadcasting on that are normally advertising your game, but I can understand from the other side of people who are just doing playthroughs of your content immediately, and basically selling off your cutscenes and in-game story. That's kind of rude, to say the least. I'm meaning, if you're playing a story-based game, it only has one story and there is no divergence, or even if it's a Mass Effect style one, it might ruin the game and people might not want to play it. So I can definitely end up seeing them wanting to do those things, but it kind of sets a weird standard for the industry at the moment. Have to see how more that goes. Squeenix is holding their ground with high-priced iOS titles. They have titles going all the way up to $30 at the moment. It's very interesting to see this, and this is through Kotaku, but it will be very interesting to see how, well, basically people keep buying them, whether it's actually profitable for them. Square Enix has been really hard hit, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they can hold console-style prices with that. But also, it's one of those, with the mobile market, I still think that it's one of those, if you lower the prices to it, you will have more purchases, so I don't necessarily think that that's needed on this type of console. In the retail world, I mean, to get your fair share of it, you'd have to increase the price quite a bit, but on mobile, it's, okay, they take a 30% cut, but for the most part you get everything else, and that's a 30% cut whether you're selling it for $100 or whether you're selling it for 99 cents. So I'm not 100% sure what is going to fall out, but that's another one to definitely keep a look at. Supercell has apparently been, according to Game Politics, has been grossing $500,000 a day, or at least reportedly, from 2 iOS titles. Very interesting to see how small companies can start making big money on these social games. Secret World Designer came out saying that MMOs need to be more commercial and have to be hyped and advertised more. On gamesindustry.biz, I basically disagree with the points that he makes in it, because he's actually contesting that it needed more commercialization, more of a community built around it, which may have been a little bit true, but I think the major thing that a large amount of reviewers have been saying is that they are not going after it basically because of the price point, because you had to buy so much premium content, because you had to buy the game, then have the high subscription. Even World of Warcraft is suffering from that, and SWTOR, Star Wars the Old Republic there. Not Knights of the Old Republic, just the Old Republic. And those different details are all suffering from that payment model, and on top of that they have microtransactions in the game. It hurts all the way around. It's a lot of money to pay for a game that was experimental at best. If it went freemium, if it went just like Guild Wars and stuff like that, I could definitely see it working, but when you have that subscription model tied in, it hurts the player base, and when you don't have a big player base, it continues to shrink because you don't have that investment from people. That's why freemium is so powerful, is you get people dragging their friends into play, and then their friends, and then their friends, and it builds on itself. It's social. It's not something that necessarily a marketing individual is going to give you. It's something that the game has to basically develop. Now, that's not necessarily on the design side. In this case, it's on the model for business, but in other bad business models, apparently the fake Bad Piggies application on Chrome browsers has infected more than 80,000 individual browsers. It'll be very interesting to see how this comes out, because it's basically a complete fake application through their professional browser system. It'll be interesting to see if they get more changes basically to their system, whether they can detect these malware and other viruses being distributed to it, or whether we're going to be seeing that more, because there's been a lot of cases of this on the iOS and Android applications. So it'll be interesting to see how these things spread nowadays. It's going to be harder to tell them apart because of all of the different cross-platform methods. The World of Warcraft had been experiencing a bunch of problems from, or says WoW Insider, from basically the world having several individuals who were exploiting the game and wiping out entire cities, mowing them down, killing everyone inside. This seems like a bad remake of the zombie plagues that had plagued the game, except that it wasn't a mechanic. They're currently looking into it and trying to figure out what the exploits were and try and find the individuals responsible for such an exploit. Fox has greenlighted Battlefield Bad Company, the TV show. That'll be an interesting twist to it, but games into movies and books into movies always have a very hard time. It'll be very interesting to see, because it's supposed to be apparently a serial of some sort. So it'll be interesting to see how well it translates over. Obsidian promises mod support for Project Eternity, says GamesIndustry.biz. I really appreciate this kind of thing, because for developing the community, for developing and extending the longevity for these games, I mean Skyrim especially at this point, and Torchlight and Torchlight 2 now, it's a great thing to have all of this mod support. In fact, they're releasing that it will be out early. We'll definitely get more people excited and interested in the project, because it extends things, and since it is an RPG, you can have a lot of fun there. Sony is currently suing former pitchman Kevin Butler, or the actor who played the fake Sony executive, says G4TV. It's very interesting in this case, because they're basically saying, oh, well, we built him up as a character, now that he is acting in other commercials for Goodyear tires or other things, it can be destructive to their brand. I would tend to say that that basically means that they should have continued to have him under the payroll. It's kind of one of those issues where in Mass Effect 3 there was an image of one of the characters that was supposed to be revealed in a mysterious way, and that you could find a picture of her face, Tally, and the picture that they had was a stock image that they had altered slightly. Using those kinds of things, using actors who are going to continue being an actor, who are going to continue doing their thing. I mean, you're basically saying after that point you cannot do your job as a character in anything because we used you previously. That to me seems silly, to say the least. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes, and basically how our field is going to progress with now using voice talent and individuals. Basically how we're going to mature into our marketing and advertising, as well as even things like voice acting nowadays. Modern Warfare 2 has pulled a map, says The Escapist, because of complaints from Muslim individuals over content in the game. They did put a bunch of bunch of lines talking about their profit, so they basically have taken down the maps until they can readjust and remove those comments. It's a pretty standard course of action, but it's also interesting to see how the reactions are actually relatively peaceful in this. They made a comment about how it was offensive to do that, and it's probably more out of negligence or ignorance more than actual bad feelings. It'll be very interesting to see how, well, it basically is already being solved. It'll be interesting to see the reaction, though. It'll be also very interesting to understand how this basically turned into something that was not overblown, it wasn't overhyped, it was a problem, then they fixed it, no bad blood seems to be over it. That change for especially the games industry is going to be a very interesting one to start handling, where the social media is not going to be jumping over this all the time. That being said, there's still time for them to jump over it, so I'll have to definitely keep my eyes out for any reactions to that. So with that, have a happy Wednesday. This has been Voice to the Void with Topaz. As always, leave comments below, subscribe above. See you tomorrow. Bye.